Hey, IT interns. Today, I brought another myth, guys. And it's called, is it really necessary for you to have a higher education degree, such as master's or even PhD, to become a software engineer? So let's get to it. So for this one, I want to start by talking about what is higher education requirements. I think this one starts off by, you can say, higher education obviously would be master's. You also have PhD versus just maybe college degree would be the lowest you could have, or even just high school graduate. Even something that's also being provided at my school was like certificates. So let's talk about individual ones. Oh, you don't, maybe not even high school, really? Or no degree? Then we can do master, PhD, professor level versus college degree or some type of, you get advanced. So this is advanced. I wanted to add certificate because there are some colleges out there that allows you to just have certificate level of like programming versus, you know, like no education. First of all, in terms of just education, I think there are 3 levels where no education, so the basic, and then the intermediate level would be college degree, just college degree related to some type of coding. And then the advanced level would include masters and PhD, maybe even professors, yada yada yada. And then as a side, there's a certificate that you can get if you're not a CS major but want to either go into a CS field or is looking to do, maybe for me it was like a PM job, and if you, or some type of marketing job that you wanted to look that requires a bit of coding, then people would just get a certificate. So professor isn't a degree. Okay, well, I'll take professor out. Some of my senior colleagues does not have degrees. They do have a lot of experience and goddamn street smart. Wow, that's so cool. Oh, professor. Oh, okay. Let's talk about education. The reason why I think this myth was brought was that some job requirements, they tell you that you can only apply if you have masters. And this even includes entry-level position. So those who graduate grad school can only apply to a certain job. And at least this actually was happening for engineers. There were a couple of fields. I can name like a company. Shoot, it was a medical healthcare manufacturing company that required you to have master's degree to work. So first of all, do you really think it's necessary to... Why do you think companies require master's degree or PhD? Reduce the number of applicants and to get candidates who have been taught longer. Have more hands-on experience. Easy filter for basic knowledge. Then in terms of master... So what are some master field you can get in terms of PhD... in terms of a CS job? Why I'm saying this was... Since when you're getting master's or PhD, you're focusing on a certain topic in that field. So I'm guessing it could be, you could focus on AI. So security. So you'd see that kind of requirement for research heavy position. So even if it's entry, the reason why they ask for master's or PhD level is because you have to do more research and that you need a specific knowledge of either security. So then if you don't have this degree, you also have to get into grad school. So the presumption is they have some work ethic to have done. So this isn't always true. Wait, then if this is true, then this is kind of understandable, since you need masters and PhD. If you're doing a lot of research heavy stuff as a company, I would want someone who's dedicated into studying, because research requires, like what Nine Dog said, reading papers and doing lots of studies. And if you go to master's and PhD, those people normally are interested in doing a lot of studies, right? I mean, there are people like me who needed to do something out of, that I didn't like my job. So smart enough to get into grad school and hardworking enough to get the degree. Yeah. Programming is just a tool. There are many fields you can apply. A research field is not just coding. That's why you mentioned math heavy, because it relates to algorithm. Research is definitely a place where advanced degree are commonly needed. Wait, so what are some jobs that what company focus just on security? Is there a company that specifies on cybersecurity? Like cybersecurity companies that does those things, and you would need a lot of algorithms. And for those people, you would need master's or PhD because it does a lot of studies. I just answered my own question. Damn, I'm smart. Maybe they left grad school to stop having to read papers. Maybe. Yeah, because when you go into master's or PhD, you specialize in a certain field, and then you have to do a lot of extra studies, and write paper, do your own thesis. And no brain fog, I know. You need to prove that some algorithm are secure enough. So honestly, maybe if you get master's or PhD, it's for those who don't want to do coding every day, but those who are more into working with like complicated algorithms and don't want to do like what people know, a theory. So then it is true. So this does make sense, but maybe it shouldn't be for software engineers, but maybe for like for a specific field of software engineer. So I guess you have to be more exact on this. Then let's talk about what college level kids can do. That sounds kind of mean, but let's look into college level. Also, some field requires a lot of validations. Like you want the software running an airplane to be rigorously tested via proofs. True. It does not guarantee though. We interviewed a super smart person with good education, but he brought his mom to the interview. Formal development. Because I never thought in perspective of master's or PhD. It's a good proof to say for any of these research positions that, you're probably smart because you're into going to get your master's or PhD, and that you have consistency of trying to study, or that you're really into theories, algorithms, reading papers, yada yada yada. But if I guess it's not required for this. If you have backup, portfolios saying that you really like theory and that you've been solving a lot of theories, people would probably hire you. But the best way to get into a research company or any type of company that does a lot of research would be getting your master's or PhD. That's a very good conclusion that I just said, and it was like light bulb. I was like, so it's not required, but it is easier to get into those jobs. Like levels of education has some effect on starting compensation. Yeah, that was so good for me because I got my master's, and honestly, I'd be making more if I got a job right now. Now let's talk about college degree and see what type of what they're capable of. These people would be those who graduated just out of college, and they're like, hey, I have a degree in CS, computer science, computer engineering, yada, yada, yada. Where would they normally go? I'm guessing just entry-level developer, or maybe specifically front-end, back-end. I've also seen a lot of programmers go into sales, which I found this interesting. Any type of software products, because you have to have basic knowledge of programming to explain the products and everything. They do. I've seen a couple that went to sales, so that would be something that college would go into, but you don't really need to do this. So and then obviously the no education related people would be, we talked about it last time, so I want to do a quick overview. But the fact that you need a great portfolio, I think, to get a job in CS if you have no education. And there were other options out there, for example, participating in projects, or you know, creating your own code, or maybe even if you even own a YouTube channel that shows how persistent you are in, or how you have how passionate you are in coding or programming or developing, that would be a good source to use. Because I've seen a lot of YouTubers out there right now that does programming, and there's a lot of program with me videos out there, which are 10 hours long. Shockingly, I don't know why. I wouldn't actually watch them, but I'd probably have them up there. But doing a lot of recreating certain projects using dummies or yada yada yada. So nowadays, the best portfolio I think would be your own YouTube page where you're actually coding, because it actually shows you evidence that you could sit and work for 10 hours, since you'd probably be live streaming and everything. So yeah, that's something interesting. That's nice. And finally, I wanted to talk a little bit about certificates, because a lot of my friends have certificates. And what I find interesting about these requirements for a certificate is I don't know about other colleges, but for my college, it was 300 level courses. So basically beginner courses. And then 3 experienced or expert level, which is like the 400 to 600 level. And you would get a certification on computer science. Do they actually have an effect? You just learning 6 courses programming, does it prove that you're a person who could code? And how effective are these certificates? Like, if you were an interviewer and this person is like not a programmer but is applying for front end, and the only portfolio or only thing in their resume is this certificate, would you hire this person or not? If you have something like 8W, so maybe not college certificate that you can earn in college, but company certificate. Wait, isn't there a certificate in data analytics, like machine learning? A certificate might help qualify for certain hard requirements. Yeah, honestly, I think just the college certificate would be best if you're in a different field. You need like programming required, because honestly, these days, a lot of even like marketing or non-STEM field require a bit of programming would be best. And then if you wanted to look into more specific programming things, you would get like the machine learning. I think this is sponsored by Google. And then the AWS certificate. So for cybersecurity, you can just have certificates, so you might not really need a degree either. So conclusion wise, with the higher education requirement for software engineering, honestly, I don't think it's a myth. I think it's somewhat true. Like I mentioned earlier, you don't need it. You don't need a higher education, but it does give a good way for the companies to see what you're capable of doing. Like, I don't think they're just gonna hire this college kid to this research job just because he has like, you know, but he doesn't have anything in his resume, for example, not even a GitHub page, just because he's a CS major, yada yada yada. Or it's more likely that they're gonna hire someone who has a master's degree with the same condition of working experience than a college degree kid. And also, if you want to get paid better, nice to have a higher education. Like, if money is a big issue that you're having, I would definitely get a higher education for it. So I think that's the conclusion we're gonna make for this myth. And I do want to say it's not busted. I think it's true. I think it's also nice or it's easy for companies to figure out who you are with the degree, and that they'll make less chances of failing who they hire, because hiring process is also very hard. So that's all the myth for today.